A very warm welcome to Art Gallery Explorer, the vlog that takes you inside art galleries and exhibitions and explores the art scene across London, the southeast of England and beyond. Coming up. And you know what, I'm really excited to explore the show by Tavares Strachan, that conceptual artist from the Bahamas, entitled There Is a Light Somewhere. Now, there are two purposes of the Art Gallery Explorer vlogs, and one of them is to inspire you to get out and visit galleries yourselves if you live in London and southeast of England. But it's also, the secondary purpose is to document the London art scene and bring exhibitions to people who aren't able to get to them. I've got lots of viewers from abroad, from America, Australia, Europe, who comment regularly. So this one is really for you because it finishes on the 1st of September. Unfortunately, that's a couple of days from when I'm filming this. So, but let's go inside anyway. Tavares Strachan's star has been rising as a conceptual artist on the art scene for a couple of decades now. The last big piece of work I saw of his was entitled The First Supper, that kitsch but passionate introduction to Entangled Past at the Royal Academy. And he's an artist who flits in lots of different directions. Originally he was a painter, then he trained in sculpture, and he brings all of his artistic skills to these shows. So let's head inside and explore this really interesting sounding show focusing on Bahamian artist Tavares Strachan. Going to dodge the waterfalls to get inside this gallery. Wow! Straight away I can see the first work, this massive sculpture of Marcus Garvey outside the South Bank Centre, outside the Hayward Gallery where this show is on. A really pivotal figure in the early fight for African American rights. He was actually born in Jamaica, died in London in 1941. But he is a seminal figure in the early 20th century. He tried to unite black peoples in America, in Europe and in Africa. And he tried to set up a company called the Black Star Line with the aim of allowing African Americans to return to Africa and avoid the racist persecution of the 20s in America, 1920s in America. And I think Strachan is telling us the stature he believes that Marcus Garvey deserves. So let's head right inside now and explore some more. Throughout the show, there are a couple more of these massive heads of really significant figures who the artist clearly feels should have greater stature. Harriet Tubman was an abolitionist and social activist who was born into slavery in 1822, whereas King Tubby was actually Osborne Roderick, who was a Jamaican sound engineer. And it's clear from the way that these massive statues are not just oversized, but rendered as if they're ancient with these cracks that you can see here. Strachan is trying to put these people in a place where he feels they should be as having been valued and recognized for a long time. First thing you actually see as you come into the exhibition are a series of paintings which appear collage-like, and they are hung together, all pretty recent, as you can see. By the fact that they combine a really diverse range of images and influences, as you can see here. Every Tongue Shall Confess, for example, which you can see here, recalls an encounter between Queen Elizabeth II and Haile Selassie, the Emperor. And apparently the Queen Elizabeth, actually bowed to Emperor Haile Selassie in recognition of her higher rank. So that was that was something which the artist was really keen to highlight. Another work, Double Consciousness, which you're about to see now, refers back to the concept of double consciousness developed by American scholar and civil rights activist W.E.B. Du Bois. And he coined the term to describe the sensation experienced by African Americans of living physically within and mentally outside of a racist society. Another technique that Tavares Strachan uses is to render a series of figures in Pyrex glass and then immerse them in mineral oil within a glass tank. And both the Pacham Lama, who you saw earlier, and Henrietta Lacks, who you can see now, are figures who kind of disappeared from history for different reasons. The Pacham Lama because the Chinese disappeared him, and Henrietta Lacks because society refused to recognize her. And I'll talk a little bit more about why she's important in my review. And these works are really beautiful, as are the works in neon, actually, which you can see here. This information about Robert Henry Lawrence, who was the first African American astronaut, and he's also rendered in Pyrex, as you can see here, but with the added twist of adding neon. The effect is ethereal, and a bit like with the huge bronzes you saw at the start, this is all about bringing characters from history that have been forgotten or badly treated back to life. This quote, by the way, is from James Baldwin. You might want to pause to read it as well. I saw an interview with Strawn where he said that as a child, one of your tasks, if you're ambitious when being born onto a small island, is to work out how to get off the island before you can return. And this section of the exhibition explores the works of art which position the artist as an explorer. One of his most famous works of art was a trip to the Arctic Circle, where he brought a block of ice back from there to his primary school. It was a piece of kind of activist art, if you like. John also set up the Bahamas Aerospace and Sea Exploration Centre and actually launched a rocket, which you're about to see here, into space, where it soared 15 to 20 miles into the Earth's stratosphere before crash landing into the sea. And you're about to see a picture of this rocket taking off. It was all the materials from the rocket were sourced locally. And Strawn said he sought to evoke an optimistic present and a future of achievement in modelling the Bahamas as a rocket launching nation. An absolute highlight of the whole exhibition is a series of set piece, often large scale installation works. So this is the first one that you see. There is a field of Indian rice grass surrounding a statue of Haile Selassie I, the last emperor of Ethiopia, and he ruled from 1930 to 1974. The rice is interesting as well because it's a staple food in the Caribbean, and it was brought to the Caribbean by indentured Indian workers under colonial rule. And the rice field or the grass is laid out to create the patterns of a traditional African pictogram that symbolizes authenticity and excellence. As in so much of Strawn's work, there's a huge amount to get your head around, but I did enjoy this work. The Encyclopedia of Invisibility and 6,000 Years, which contains pages from this encyclopedia, is part of Tavares Strachan's monumental research project, which began as an attempt to find out and preserve missing parts of history. It comes from the fact that Strachan read the Encyclopedia Britannica as a child and saw that it was written from an incredibly Western perspective. And so he's got this tremendously ambitious plan to fill in the gaps, if you like. And the latest iteration is a 2,550 page volume containing more than 17,000 entries, some of which you can see here. The Intergalactic Palace, as you can see hopefully from this shot, is placed on a floor of iron oxide, evoking the mineral deposits that saturate East and South African landscapes and the surface of Mars. And this is a huge, as you can see here, epic installation. The music you can hopefully hear in the background is a sound piece entitled Sonic Encyclopedia, and it contains music that a wide range of music, and the building and the structure was inspired by Strahan's travels to Uganda's Kingdom of Bwanda, where successive ruling kings have been crowned under thatched structures since the 14th century. But where the king would be is this DJ booth. Things get even more spectacular on the roof, where we see another reference back to a cornerstone of the show, Marcus Garvey. This ship was the flagship of Garvey's shipping line, the Black Star Line, that was set up to allow African Americans to separate themselves from the racism that they experienced in America by returning to Africa. And the Black Star Line, unfortunately for Garvey, collapsed as a company. Garvey was in fact jailed and then deported from the United States. But Strachan points out that there was a lot of FBI meddling in this company. And so he's trying to complete the project that Garvey started. Another conceptual piece and sculptural piece that we see is a series called Distant Relatives, which include two different aspects. There are a series of plaster busts, as you can see here, from prominent figures from the African diaspora like Mary Seacole or Nina Simone. But when you look at these works front on, you don't see the bust. You see traditional masks from Africa or from Papua in Indonesia. And according to the exhibition, for Strachan, it's a way of imaginatively remapping ancestral connections that were brutally disrupted and suppressed by 300 years of slavery. Strachan himself says, "I love thinking through the relationships that these recent historical figures might have to the stories of origin that they've been removed from, and what happens when you reconnect them." And this is obviously a really strong theme of Strachan's, to reimagine, reconfigure history, to take into account what might have been as well as what actually was. The final room pairs two complementary series, a map of the crown and minefields. If we start with a map of a crown, this refers to these sculptures, which are made in bronze, classically rendered faces. And they obviously on their own refer back to the artistic tradition of West African societies like Benin, whose famous bronzes are sat in the British Museum, or some of them are, to produce these really accomplished sculptures. But then you can notice that they are crowned by traditional African and Afro-Caribbean hairstyles, actually made from real hair, which the artist has collected from barber shops all over the Bahamas and from friends, and apparently his own hair as well. And Strachan makes the point that hair and how you wear your hair and the style that you choose is often an act of resistance and a deeply political act, which has had an incredibly important historical resonance. Behind these sculptures are another series of works which you can see here called Mind Fields, and these are also used for using or made from hair, and Strachan has used human hair to create a really interesting and stunning series of monochrome abstract paintings, which at first seem not that interesting, but then you're drawn to their shapes and their texture, and you begin to see patterns within these works. And the exhibition says that they are meant to provide a counterpoint to the history of abstraction in 20th century Western art. Well, I really hope you enjoyed that exploration there of the Tavares Strachan show from the Hayward Gallery. I wish I could have covered it earlier to encourage more people to go, but one of the aims of the art vlog is to capture shows for those who can't go, so hopefully it gave you a sense of what it was like and the show and the works on display. I have to say it was lovely and busy. There was a queue coming in and the galleries were packed, and as I went round the exhibition I couldn't help but overhear art lovers having conversations as they contemplated and interpreted the work. That was always brilliant. And I would say as well that the audience reflected the true diversity of London in all its forms more than any other show I've been to in recent years. So that was absolutely great to see. When thinking about the exhibition, I always think about the good, the bad, and the beautiful. And in terms of the good, the show fully, as you hopefully saw from the exploration of the exhibition, fully captured the very, very diverse range of Tavares Strachan's work, both in terms of materials used, from hair to latrines to paint to bronze, and also in terms of the forms that these works took, from sculpture to installation art and so much more. And I would say that sometimes artists in solo shows at the Hayward Gallery get eaten up, swallowed, and digested, because it is a quite unforgiving space. It's one of the largest sort of single spaces in London. Yet Tavares Strachan filled this and more. And in fact, by the last room with those sort of hair works with real human hair, I was still wanting more and could have gone on for another 2 floors. So massive kudos to the Hayward Gallery and the artist. That was really, really good. In terms of the bad, it's not such a big criticism, but sometimes with Strachan's work, it's so diverse, you do lose a sense of artistic voice, I felt, a little bit. Although I would qualify that by saying the voice comes through the themes of the work, escaping the island of the Bahamas and then returning to it, and more importantly, trying to rewrite and reconfigure history so it's not just written by the victor. So that did provide coherence, so it's only a minor quibble. In terms of the beautiful, there's something about this work entitled Henrietta, with this glass figure in a case, in an acrylic case, really vulnerable, suspended, memorialized. And then you find out that this figure is representing Henrietta Lacks, an African-American woman who had her cells harvested by white doctors without her permission or knowledge. And these cells went on to be part of some really important scientific and medical discoveries. This is, for me, summing up what Tavares Strachan is about. Rewriting, capturing, rememorializing, bringing back figures who have not been part of mainstream consciousness and history when they need to be. So I love this work, but there were lots and lots of works that I could have chosen, and I thought the range, the way they filled the galleries, the really, really intellectually challenging and interesting themes, means that this is a clear 8.5 out of 10. It's actually, I mean, it beat my expectations, and really strong show. We probably, maybe in the top 10 of the year for me. It was that good. So I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did go, please, as always, post in the comments if you enjoyed it, or maybe if you think that my review is too generous, do post that. I love that. I love reading the comments. There's been a lot on the Damien Hirst show, as I expected. And so it's been fantastic to get in touch with other art lovers. Do subscribe to the art vlog, hit that notification bell. Thank you very much for watching.